Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sachs.
Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Someone You Should Know. I'm sure glad that you're with us today because I've got a tremendous guest on that we go way, way back. In fact, even back to our hometowns we share. I became a little talk show host on the streaming radio, and he became a big mogul in Hollywood. So I'd like to welcome to the show, Phil Doran. Good morning, Phil.
Good. How are you doing?
Was that a good enough intro?
That was great. That was good. Could you do it again? Because my mother didn't hear it. No, it was good. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. It's wonderful to be able to do this. And other than getting up at 6:30 in the morning, it was been perfect.
Yeah, because you're out on the West Coast, and for those watching this show live, Phil's kind of working on the caffeine level to get himself going this morning. But I'm sure glad that you got up to be with me, and because you have had in my eyes, a fascinating career. Kind of being in the right place at the right time within the Hollywood television industry. You and I, just a little bit of background. We went to the same really elementary and middle school. We went to the same high school. We went to the same
Hebrew
college.
school.
Yeah, I followed you. I followed your footsteps.
Be careful.
And you're a tall guy, so you had big shoes to fill.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it was fun. I'll tell you the interesting thing. When I think about how I got to be a writer or a producer or to Hollywood or something, I look at it and I said, how did I do this? It's so improbable to go from a little town in Indiana to, but I just had a feeling that when I look back later in my life, and I don't think I had an actual goal when I was doing it. I thought maybe I'd go to law school, maybe I'd do this or that, but the thing that it has everything knitted together is I've always done a lot of writing. In other words, any kind of show, any kind of group, club I'm in, or any kind of group I'm in, I did the writing, I did the thing, I did this, and it just came to me, and I like doing it. And that seemed to be what I gravitated to the best. And so when I after college, after college, I went to an advertising agency. I wrote copy for a North Advertising in Chicago, which was a lucky break. I was like a 23-year-old kid, didn't know anything, and I'm right in the middle of the whole thing, and it was really, really kind of exciting. And I worked at North Advertising for about 2.5 years, and after a while, I began to wonder. And I wrote copy, I wrote jingles and stuff like that. And I began to wonder if I could write something longer than a minute.
Right.
So I was going to go to something bigger.
Or you'd write something that was a minute and a half, and then you'd have to cut it back to 60 seconds.
Thing. That was my goal. But I'll tell you this: I learned a lot about writing from the guys I worked with in the writing in the creative business, and they were meticulous about the things, about punctuation and this and that, and I was sort of indifferent to all that kind of stuff. But I learned that they were right. You have to have the right word, and the difference between the right word and the wrong word is a difference between a firebug and lightning. And that's what they taught me at North Advertising, to look for that great word that just suddenly opens up everything.
And from writing jingles and little short stuff, you said that you wanted to kind of explore the opportunity to write a little bit more. Is that when did you make that jump from the Chicago area right to California?
Pretty much. After I left North Advertising, it's just a funny thing. I had a whim, call it what you want, but I felt that I wanted to be I wanted to see what was going on in show business. I was kind of just nosy. I wanted to see what was going on. And so me and my late wife, we went to California on a whim. And we got there, and I said, I was there, and I said, this is my spiritual homeland. I just love the whole thing. I love the thrill of it, and the pace of it, and how cool it is, and everything. And I had no idea, could I make it? Could I do anything with it or something?
Right.
And first of all, I was married with 2 children, and I had to make a living and a mortgage and all that kind of stuff. So I got jobs on TV shows, daytime game shows and things like that. And I worked on a lot of talk shows. I was a talent coordinator for Merv Griffin and for blah 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 a lot of times. And it was grunt work, but it was great. And you get to meet a lot of movie stars, and that was kind of exciting. And that, but it was a low level. I mean, it was probably about the lowest level you can get into broadcasting, network broadcasting. And I banged around for a number of years trying to figure out. And at some point, I met this guy who was one of the guys on the talk show that we both worked on, and he was extremely funny. And we really clicked for some reason. Everything clicked, and we started we had an agent, and he said, it would be pretty good. It would be good for you if you work for a partner, because if you want to go work in comedy, basically producers like teams of writers, because they think they get more for their money. And so I hooked up with my partner, Doug Arango, and I have to say, we were good from the get-go. We just were. And people were wanting to see our material and meet us and stuff like that. It was like a big rush. And at some point, a guy we worked for on a show, he said, he called us up, and he said, guys, we got a problem here. I got a guy who wrote a script, and it's not very good, and it's not really great, but maybe you guys can punch it up or something. And this was like a big opportunity to do something. So we're punching this up. We're like polishing a Cadillac. It's got to be like perfect and everything. And so so the guy, so then the guy comes. So the guy says he wants to take us to meet some people. So the guy, Ron Clark was his name, and he was a wonderful guy, wonderful writer and producer. And he gets us an interview with someone. So we're supposed to go in and meet with them and everything. So we get there, and we're like really excited. This is like the first time you're actually dealing with show business professionals, and
like the next step to the big time.
Yeah, there's Emmys here, and there's these awards here, and it's like, oh my God. And so so we get there to the meeting, and we say, hi, we're here, Phil Doran and Doug Arango for we're here to see Bob Clark. And he says, well, Bob Clark was fired 2 weeks ago. I said, okay. She says, so what do we do? She says, well, let me make a call. Something like that. So waiting.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy. Yeah, exactly. So we we met this other guy, and this other guy was Rob Parker, who was executive producer of Maude. And that's like, Jesus Christ, look what we are,
Yeah.
And so he gives us the script to work on, and we worked on it. We worked on it good, and it came out that what we did got actually produced, and it was the most amazing thing. The whole thing went so fast and so perfectly. It was hard to believe it was that really life that was good doing this. So so the show was ready to go. The show was ready to be produced, and we're in rehearsal hall, and everybody's there, and the whole family, the whole cast of All in the Family is there, and this kind of thing. And
oh wow!
Norman Lear comes in, and it's like, oh my God. And so I know, it's like, what am I doing here? And so
Yeah.
I
Little
was,
guy from Hammond, Indiana. All of a sudden, I'm standing here in front of Norman Lear.
exactly, yeah, and so uh, yeah, so in the midst of, and Norman does a great. He feels the show, he tells the audience exactly what it was. And the show that we were working on was a thing called the Hotel Baltimore, which was a short-lived but good, a pretty good show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that. So we did a script on that, and people liked it. And so then from there, so then we're there, and here's the audience. We're sitting with the audience, and Norman Lear, after explaining the show and
And
everything,
these are live audiences
these are live
too.
audience.
Yeah.
So Norman Lear says, I want to introduce you to two young men who wrote the script, and they've got have a big future in this stuff. And I'm hearing this, and I'm like, oh my God, I could die right now, and I would be okay. This would be the highlight of my life. That's fine. I'm gone. It was just so impressive. So then from there, we sort of Doug and I caught on to a lot of sitcoms that we wrote.
And most of the sitcoms that you worked on, were those collaborations with your partner? Most of the time, it was the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, for those of you that are watching and listening to the show, we're not just talking about fly-by-night sitcoms. We're talking about things like Sanford and Son, All in the Family, for which you received an award for your work on All in the Family, and even got an Emmy nomination. Am I correct? Hey, having said that, is it really true that what people say? Well, it's just a thrill being nominated. If you won, it would have been nice, wouldn't it?
It's a bigger thrill to beat the people you're
right. Yes,
that is thrill.
Yeah, like the award winner always says, "Oh, it could have been any one of these other wonderful nominees."
Yeah,
but I sure am glad it was me. But who's the boss? I mean, Sanford and Son was one of my favorite shows growing up. I mean, it was just a quick show between Red Fox and DeMont Wilson and some of the other characters. The pace of it was just great.
Do we have time for some backstage gossip?
Yeah, sure.
Sanford and Son was a great show. Red Fox was brilliant. He was amazing, but it was such a hard show to do in terms of, well, Red's life is funnier than anything we ever put on the TV. His life was so insane. I mean, he had women coming at him from all sides. He had this woman, this Korean woman, jumped out of the curtains with a knife in her hand for him. We had, well, essentially what it was is that back then it was very segregated in terms, it was all black show. So they were all black. And
one of the first ones, really.
And all the Jews sit on the other side of the table were the writers. And that there was a lot of, I don't know, consternation between the two groups and what it should be and how it should be and this kind of thing. And you don't understand black people and and all this kind of thing. But it was really strange. And the amount of cocaine coming through at this point was like bushels of it. I mean, I couldn't even describe what was going on. But that was also how Hollywood was back then. Back then, right. People were notoriously getting high. And I remember I was on a show one time, and we needed to do another set, one more setup, which is expensive. And the people at Paramount said, no, we can't do it. We don't have the money. And I said, let me just remind you of something, that we have a drug dealer on salary at $2,500 a week. That's where the money's going. Not on the show. So this is the way it was back then. I don't think it's quite that way this way. There's Hollywood's always been I don't know, just a crazy place where people just
Well, it seemed like every decade and all there was a different kind of an aura about it.
right.
Did you ever know Seaman Jacobs?
Yes, I worked with him.
Did you?
Yeah.
Seaman Jacobs,
Lovely guy. Lovely
another
guy.
little backstory.
Yeah.
Seaman Jacobs and my dad were in the army together
Oh, really?
in World War II, and they used to entertain the troops coming and going overseas.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I referred to Seaman Jacobs as my Uncle Si. He was, and
Yeah.
he also, was one of those writers. He also wrote for Bob Hope and for Johnny Carson.
Absolutely.
And in those days, they used to get paid by the joke. So they would be there sitting all day long, 8 hours a day, writing one-liners. And then the editors or producers would look at them. And if you got 2 jokes pulled, that's how you got paid. If you didn't get a joke pulled,
amazing.
You went home with nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean, and it was just interesting stories that Uncle Si wrote until he finally wrote a screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
He did "Oh God" with George
Great.
Burns and John Denver.
Oh, fabulous! Wow, that's great.
And I mean, and this, as I was reading some of your bios, this was kind of your life too. You were writing for these shows, writing for Jack Parr, and working on some of the shows with Chuck Barris. I mean, great names in television. Merv Griffin,
pioneers of television. Quite honestly. Yeah.
And so did you find? I mean, I guess I'll ask you straight out. You were talking about what was going on behind the scenes of a lot of these TV shows, like Sanford and Sons. Did you ever feel pressured to get wrapped up in that, or were you able to keep that wall between you?
The thing that you have to understand is when you're writing when you're on a TV show and you're in production, it's never over. You never finish the script. It's always in continuum.
Yep.
It is, because things change very quickly and things can always be better and this kind of thing. So it's like a lot of times I'm on a show and I said, and then they're yelling down from the script, "Where's the script? Where's the script?" I said, "We're still writing it." Come. And they grab it out of your hands and they just do what it is, which is not the best way in the world to do a show, but
right.
How it is,
It's interesting. Who are some of the people that you worked with, from the acting side that you found very, very easy to work with?
Oh, that's a good question. Ted Knight was really a class guy, a funny guy, and a real and a good actor. And,
very good, serious and funny.
Serious and funny, and that's also what was her name? And I worked with her on, what was the name of that show?
Well, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He was wonderful in that.
He was hysterical. He really was.
He was the character on that.
Chemistry. The whole thing is about chemistry. You get a bunch of people and they just click together like they live together, and somehow it's a magical thing, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. And sometimes it's not easy because there are people yelling and screaming and I want this, and you're dealing with people with a lot of egos and a lot of neurosis and a lot of whatever it is, whatever you're in, movies, TV, whatever, you don't know how long it's going to last, because as good as it is, something can happen. Somebody wants to leave the show, suddenly the show falls apart. It's very tenuous. And we all know that, and that's why we're also nervous, So that's
you get to the end of the season, and the next thing is you're biting your nails, wondering are they going to pick up the show for the next season?
That's right, exactly.
And if they renew for next season, then you sit down, you start writing right away.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really was a 12-month project, wasn't it? It didn't end when the season ended. You just go on hiatus for a while.
Yeah, there's hiatuses in it, exactly. But by then you're just so exhausted. It takes
need to recharge. All right. Well, I threw out the question as to the people that were really easy to work with. Were there some along the way that you said that I hate this person?
Many. not a lot, but
there were more on that side of the
there
page
was.
than there were on the good
Yeah,
side.
I'm very okay with actors because I realize they're the ones who have their face in the screen, and I'm just back behind bar the thing. Nobody knows who I am or whatever. My name is on the crawl, something, but they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
So the actors are really the ones who carry the full front of when everything goes wrong. That's what they're and so I never if an actor says I don't like this joke, I'll change it because even though I think it might be I have something better, but you do it for compatibility to make them feel that they're heard and that but eventually when at the end of the year when the show is over, everybody's hugging everybody pretty much, but to get there is not so easy.
You're either hugging each other because you're serious about saying I can't wait to work with you again, or man, am I going to be glad to be rid of you for the next few months.
A little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that in all industries, in the entertainment industry, in sports, and other things, there are people that once they become known, once they become popular, it kind of goes to their head. There are others. I always think of like Alan Alda. Alan Alda to me was one of the best actors I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
But behind the scenes, you never knew much about his private life. He wasn't out there. He wasn't showy. Mm-hmm. But in sports and in Hollywood and all, there are some that right away it goes to their head, and they and that's maybe what leads sometimes to burnout. Mm-hmm. Were there people in your past that were kind of like that? It just they became egomaniacs.
They were reaching for more than they could be, at that point in their life.
Not satisfied with what they are today.
That's right. There's a lot of that. And, the way the money is parceled out, everybody kind of knows who makes what. And sometimes it seems wrong that some person who is not contributing to the show too much is making more money. And there's all that kind of stuff. There's no secrets in Hollywood. You find out everything eventually.
Now, do you think that has changed much over the decades since the heyday in the 60s and 70s when you were writing these shows?
Well, what's changed is the money. The money, the corporate America came in and found Hollywood, and put in tons and tons of money to people and stuff like that. And the thing I wonder about when I see TV shows is all these new TV shows coming at you, bang, 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 bang. They just keep coming, and who are these people, and what's this about, and this kind of thing. And it's almost too much, I mean, I sit and I say, well, do I really want to spend, 20 weeks watching this show, or watching this sitcom or whatever? It's a lot, And so once again, the thing with us, with America, is we just have too much of everything, and
Well, back in your day, there were sitcoms and all that would run 5, 8, 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Today it seems we've got a lot of shows that if they can get 3 or 4 seasons, that's considered a long run today.
Yeah. Well, they used to. The theory is that when a company decides to do a TV show, they know that they're in deficit spending from the beginning. In other words, they're not making any money probably until maybe the 10th, 12th, 13th show airs. And then when that happens, then the money comes in. But mostly in the beginning, it's fingernail biting time, because you don't know, they could cut you off at any time, and everybody goes home, and and you're known as someone from a show that got kicked off and stuff like that. So it's that way. But the money coming into it is just unbelievable.
Well, the advertising dollars that go into a lot of these shows too is just, almost through the roof as to what it used to be.
Oh, of course.
So the sponsorship, and then of course, if something goes wrong with the show and a sponsor drops you, I mean that could affect a big chunk of income for the show.
Absolutely right. Yeah. No, it's a perilous business. It really is. You have to, I mean, a lot of just nervous energy and just a lot of not knowing what's going to happen and this and that.
Well, you spent what, 25, 30 years doing this? That's a long time. I'm thinking to myself, that's a long time to have to continue to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to keep coming up with new characters and new lines for characters, and the new show is based on this. And now, how am I gonna write for that? I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it was good to have a partner, because you could bounce things off of each other. Maybe you were on and he was off, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's helpful. It really is.
All right, so then your life takes a complete 180.
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of decide, okay, I've been down this road long enough, and what am I going to do? But your wife kind of stepped in and made the move for you. And I find this to be borderline hysterical. She decides you need a change of scenery. So what does she do? She goes out and she buys some property in Italy.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That was funny. Well, first of all, I felt, at the end of the thing, I was 55 years old, and that's sort of a magic cutoff time that it's very hard to get work when you're
kind of forced retirement, huh?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Yeah.
I just saw it came through like a blizzard. It's like all my friends, all the people I knew who were good writers and had wonderful, things and that not working, including me. And it was a midlife crisis of supreme, I was going crazy. I didn't know what I was going to do. And Nancy, my wife, Nancy, was a marble sculptor. And so she would go to Italy and do these things. In fact, at the campus of UCI, she has 12 of her monumental statues there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she goes off to Italy and she sees this house. Okay. And she decides, we're going to move to Italy. This is not good for us to be in Hollywood anymore. And I have to say, every show I worked on, every show, good, bad, different, lousy, tough, great, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved the whole thing of it, and I did not want to be without a show. But the reality intrudes, and there's no place for me. So I couldn't figure out what to do. So I went to Italy with Nancy and to see this house that she bought. Now, this house, I have to tell you, it's like it's a 300-year-old Italian thing built on with rocks and stone. Okay, and it had not been touched for years and years and years. And in fact, the last people who lived in it were goat herders, and they brought the sheep inside the bottom thing to heat the room, to heat the house. That's how primitive it was. And I'm like, Lucy, what are you doing? And so, by God, she made it work. She hammered her way through the in Italy, everything is so many rules, and you can't do this and everything. You can't touch that, and you can't put a door here, and they're just insane. But she got a house and built a house that was just beautiful. It really was, and we lived there 10 years, and that was an amazing thing. And the perfect plus about it was, I got a book out of it. I wrote this thing called The Reluctant Tuscan, which I was a reluctant Tuscan. I liked Italy, but I didn't want to live there. The Italians are great.
You bought a what? Yeah. Where? How old? It has no running water. It has no electricity.
Yeah.
It's heated by goats. Excuse me, are you writing another sitcom or something?
Oh, I know. Yeah. Oh my God, it was funny.
And then of course you hit it off real well with the people in town, didn't you?
Oh my God, they hated us. They just did. I mean, they, there's a bunch of Americans were going to come in and turn us into Beverly Hills or whatever they thought that we were going to do here, but eventually we became friends with them, and they're really wonderful people. They're fun, they're playful, they're just really great. But you have to learn the language to be able to understand.
You had never spoken Italian before, did
Never.
you?
No, exactly. A little Yiddish, a little here
But
and there.
Nancy did, because she was traveling
Yes,
over there.
Nancy became, so she spoke for me in both English and and Italian. So I don't know what the hell she was telling people, but somehow she got it through. She was very
But whatever she was telling them, they were smiling. So you figured it was okay, huh?
Yeah.
That's what, the book is called The Reluctant Tuscan.
Yeah.
I urge every one of you that's watching and listening to the show, pick up a copy. I mean, you can go to Amazon, you can go all the sites and everything. The Reluctant Tuscan is out there. I mean, I hate to tell you, Phil, but it's out there for everything from $3.99 on up.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. It's still out there. That's a good thing.
Yes, but get the book. It is a great read. It's hilarious. I still keep thinking about the interaction that you have with the townspeople. And you want to get things done, but it doesn't move that fast in Italy.
That's right.
That's right. And the house you bought was older than the country you lived in.
That's right. It's true.
That's fun. But now do you still have the house in Italy?
We wound up selling the house, so we're just fine.
So you fixed it all up and sold it.
Yeah.
So now you're full time back on the West Coast.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
So what are you fully retired now? You go on to say that you made a promise to yourself to write a book every 20 years. So you're working on another one now.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a memoir of my family, and how that came about is I kind of realized that when Debbie and I were growing up, we lived with our parents, but we were also lived with our grandparents. They lived very close by, and they were very much into our life. And your grandma would take you there, and your grandpa would take you there, and it was like this. Right. And I realized that this is something that probably doesn't go on much anymore, And I wanted my sons to know what it's like to grow up with parents and grandparents, and how they can completely mess up your life very easily. And so I decided to write about how we came here, and this being a story about American, it starts in Russia, and my grandmother Sarah Rose Tapper came to America when she was 14 years old, and basically what happened was that she a girl in the village had a ticket to go to New York, but she fell in love with this guy, and they caught him in the haystack doing what, and she didn't go. So it got to Frida, and Frida was 14 years old, didn't know anything, and had a ticket to America. And I wrote about her travels to America to get it there, all the things that had happened, and it's sort of a thing of where we are. We are all nomads, and we Americans are the nomads of nomads. We just can't figure out where we're supposed to be.
Right.
And so The thing is to go do it and try different places, and you know.
Now, the research that you did for that, is that something that you have had in the family that you could rely on, or did you have to go to ancestry.com or something to kind of tie the ends together?
I think what the main stuff that I got from my family was just sitting around the dining room tables, big family, six kids and wives and people like that, huge things, and just listening to people talk and just listening to them.
Those were those were the days when we actually did sit around a table and talk to each other.
Yes. Exactly.
Instead of this,
Boy, is that the truth? Yeah.
Yeah. But before the show, when we talked about both of our grandparents being from Russia. That they had an old tradition that when they would drink tea, they would take the cup of hot tea and they would take a sugar cube and put the sugar cube in their mouth and drink the tea past the sugar cube to sweeten it. They didn't put the sugar in the tea.
No, too valuable.
That was the way they did it. And I always remember sitting at the table. That's the only time I ever drank tea. Was with my grandparents, and those are the memories that you want to hang on to, and in your case, you want to document those.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping to do that.
So what's your time frame for the release of that book?
Oh my God, I've been working on this book for a year and a half, and it's a big project. I've never written anything so big, so many people, so many locations and stuff like that. But I'm hanging in there, and I like what I'm writing, and it seems okay, and we'll see what happens,
Well, and I'm sure that there's going to be some serious, but there will also be humor in that too.
Oh, yeah,
you have also collaborated on other books too. You co-wrote a book called One Step at a Time, and I think there must be an interesting story behind that.
One Step at a Time.
Was that with Glenn Langor?
Oh yeah. That was about Alcoholic Anonymous and stuff. That was about that.
And I bring that up because number one, you were a comedy guy. You always were. Everything you were involved with is comedy. So how is it to all of a sudden get involved in a project, a written project or a TV project that's got a serious note to it? Is it easy to make that transition?
Well, it is if you're looking for it. It is if you're trying to find it. I mean, I think it does take a little bit of digging and stuff like that. But because behind every sad story is a laugh. We're by
that's a great line. That's a great line. I like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when our grandparents used to tell us that behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining.
That's right. Yeah. You got to believe that, or how else could you get by?
Yeah. Interesting. So you're working on this memoir. What else do you do to keep busy?
Well, I don't know. I have a lot of friends, and I live in the village, and the village is wonderful. There's always something. We're the most overproduced people in the world. We have more stuff that goes on. I sort of every night is a play and a performance and a club night and this night and that night. It's just great, So
you keep yourself going. You keep yourself busy.
Exactly.
Well, I know that I got to you because you also got a great agent in your sister, Debbie Feinberg, who also is a Hammond High graduate. I think she was the class of '65 or so, and I saw her at a reunion.
Did you? Yeah.
Ago.
Oh, that's good.
And we're talking about our high school and all. And as we are speaking on this show, they are tearing our whole high school down after 115 years.
Yeah. Are they going to do another high school on the side of that, or?
Yep. Right behind the old Hammond High is the new school called Hammond Central. It's going to be a junior high and high school combination. But I don't care what anybody says. Our high school was magic. And little by little, there were great memories from back there.
Great teachers, really great teachers. great people. I mean, people who were smart and I mean, really productive and everything. It was really a wonderful time.
Yeah, and for those of us that grew up in the '60s and everything, that was the beginning of so many interactions. There were interactions between the races. There was
Oh,
interaction between what was going on politically because of the Vietnam War. A lot of choices and a lot of directions. And I mean, you were just lucky enough, and I guess to me, I have fallen into doing these broadcasts after retiring 40 years in the retail business. I'm actually doing what I love to do. You started doing what you love to do right from the beginning, and I wanted to go into broadcasting and that in the beginning, but the military, retail, and everything kind of got in the way, and
right.
but. I think what I admire so much about you is how you procrastinated for so many years on what these shows meant to you, and you gave so great a value to such incredible shows. I keep going back and thinking about Sanford and Son and All in the Family, working with people like Carol O'Connor and Norman Lear and all, and to be able to look back at that and say, damn, that was fulfilling.
It was. It really was. I felt I was around, gods, people who really, knew the business so much. I mean, Mort Lockman was a writer for Bob Hope and for this a wonderful guy, sweet guy, and a good writer and things like that. And just to keep things in perspective, Mort would tell us a story that come Christmas, all the writers, the writing staff of the Bob Hope show, which was big, they would come to Hope's house in Toluca Lake, and they'd stand around, and he would be in the balcony, and he would be dropping checks to them. That's how much writers are treated.
That's a great story. Were there any of those shows and all that stand out to you as having been the pinnacle of your career?
Well,
or did you got to put all of them on kind of a different plateau equally?
A lot of the shows I worked on, by the time I got there, it was sort of, they were all kind of set, so it's for this, I have to sort of figure out who's talking and what are they saying and how do they say it, this kind of thing. So you have to sort of jump in while the train is moving. And so I managed to do that. And so that became okay. But it was, it's hard because, a TV show is like a living thing, like a plant. It's always moving, always going somewhere, and not really where you want it to go, but it's going. And so you have to sort of hedge the weeds and pollinate the other stuff and try to get it as good as you can. The thing that you have to understand in television and probably all the arts, the best thing you're ever going to see is the first time you imagine it. That's the first time. That's the best it's ever going to be. It'll never be better than that. So just be able to do the best you can with it, and say, this is what it is. This is as close to it as I can get. Because you can never get.
Hearing you say that, very often people will say, I watched the whole season, but the pilot was still the best.
Yeah.
It was that first episode out of the box that was the best, and everything was kind of a follow-up to that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what's your opinion of today's writing staff? I mean, what do you think of the sitcoms that are out there now?
Well, what in my lifetime, we had writing staffs on all these shows, and mostly they were like old Jews, old men. Yeah. Jews, and we sat around, and they sat at the corner. We're like the young people. We're here on the other side, and they're talking about, the things they've done, and which are very prestigious, and but so, over time, what happened is it was all men, and the only women in the room came in with the food,
The
and this and that.
refreshments. Yeah.
And suddenly, women started coming into as writers, and Black people kept coming in, and Hispanic people started coming in, and Asian people started coming in,
Right.
and it really became what the face of America is. Not
And the themes of a lot of those shows started to change with that too. And of course too, I think there's a lot of difference between a lot of those sitcoms today are laugh tracks rather than having live audiences and all. And there was a difference there.
Quite true.
Phil, I don't know. I can't thank you enough. It seems like 45 minutes has just flown by.
Is it over?
Well, as they say in your business, this is a wrap.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This was a wonderful experience. I love doing this all.
Well, it was great making the reconnection again. Thank you again to your sister Debbie for setting this all up, and to all the folks from Hammond High School that are watching the show and all. We want to say hi to all those Wildcats out there.
That's right.
And I thank you very, very much. The very best. I'll look forward to the memoir book coming out sometime in the next so many years.
In the next century, it should be out.
But you go out and make it a good day. As I always say, and Phil will probably go along and say it with me too, go out and be yourself, because everyone else is taken.
That's very good.
Make it a good one. Take care, Phil. The very best to you.
Okay,
we'll get you again next week on Someone You Should Know.
All right. Thank you.